Hi, this is Erin from Blossy Bee. Welcome to my channel. The plan for this video is to create a resin bowl. This will be my take two. I'm going to use epoxy resin and liquid pigments to make a brightly coloured trivet tray, and before it's fully cured I'm going to demould the tray and shape it into a bowl form. But first, a word from our sponsor. Only joking. I wanted to share this with you. I had a very magical experience early this evening. I got to spend quite a while watching this platypus, and I thought I'd show you some of the footage I took and tell you a little bit about these amazing creatures. So, the platypus is, obviously it's a really unique animal. It's semi-aquatic and it's a mammal. And it's native to the eastern side of Australia, including Tasmania. And it's one of only 5 species of monotremes. And a monotreme is an egg-laying mammal. The other 4 are all species of echidnas, by the way. So the name platypus comes from the Greek platus, meaning flat, and pus, meaning foot. And if we were going to follow the Greek plural rules, the plural should be platypodes. However, that term didn't ever really take on, so we call them either platypuses or just platypus. So, interestingly, when Australia was colonised, these creatures baffled European naturalists. In fact, there was a body of a platypus sent back to England, and in 1799, the scientists who examined it declared that it was a fake and that it was made of just different animals all sewn together. And the platypus was hunted for food by our first Australians, and then after colonisation it was also hunted for its fur. But it has been a legally protected species since 1912. Unfortunately, though, it is classified as a near threatened species by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, although a lot of scientists feel that that should be upgraded to endangered because of prolonged droughts, bushfires, our changing climate, increased water pollution, land clearing. All of these things have impacted the platypus's habitat and has decreased their population. So they love being in freshwater rivers and streams and lakes, and they like environments where they've got suitable banks to burrow into the side of, and they like to have lots of aquatic insect populations around too. So they have a duck-like bill, and that bill is highly sensitive, and they use that to detect prey in the water. And they have electroreceptors in their bills to detect movements of their prey, which generate an electric field, just the same way that sharks do. They love to eat insect larvae, freshwater shrimps, worms and yabbies, and they burrow for them in the banks of the water and in the bottom of them and bring them to the surface to eat. And we watched this one this evening doing that several times. So when they're bobbing on the surface, and all of a sudden they'll drop down, and then you'll see all of this dust and debris get stirred up, and that's what they're doing. When they dive, they close their eyes, their ears and their nostrils. So they're totally relying on their other senses to hunt when they're underwater. We watched this one. He was such a successful hunter. He was nomming on lots of things. I don't know what they were, but they seemed to be yummy. And they've also got webbed feet, which makes them great swimmers. And as you can see in the video, I keep calling him he. I think in my mind I want him to be a he because I want him to have a she that's at home in a burrow with babies. But when he moved up the water, he really moved. And they also have a tail that's so much like a beaver's tail, and they use that to store fat reserves. They also have 2 layers of fur, which is interesting, for insulation and waterproofing. And they use their fur to trap a layer of air next to their skin. And this allows them to stay buoyant and dry when they're underwater, which they are a lot. They spend about half of every day underwater looking for food. So I mentioned I was hoping there was a female in the bank somewhere, because during breeding season they lay usually 2 little eggs, similar to what reptile eggs look like, and they're only about 11 millimetres or a centimetre in diameter, and they're a little bit rounder than birds' eggs. And when the baby platypus hatch, they are called puggles. And these newly hatched puggles are very vulnerable. They're blind and they're hairless, and they are solely fed by their mother's milk. And another interesting fact is that the platypus doesn't have teats like other mammals. They just release milk through pores in the skin. Oh, this one's so fascinating too. When platypus are born, they have teeth, but they lose them at a very early age, and that just leaves behind horny plates in their mouth, which they use to grind food. And unlike most mammals, they don't have a stomach. So their esophagus connects directly to its intestines, and it means that they don't need to produce gastric juices to digest its food. So that's a bit fascinating. No teeth and no stomach. The male platypuses have a hollow spur on each hind leg, which is connected to a venom secreting gland, and that venom is lethal. We haven't had any recorded human deaths, but a lot of people have experienced extremely painful wounds from these spurs. The function of this venom is primarily for defense and, competition with other males during the breeding season. And if you ever get the chance to view a platypus under a UV light, they emit a blue-green glow. The only other mammals known to display this biofluorescence are squirrels, flying squirrels, and opossums. So when we see a platypus in the wild, either dead or alive, we're really encouraged to report where and when. And there's a database that is kept for this, and it's very secure and it's only used for conservation purposes. So I was very pleased tonight to be able to upload all of my viewing information, the relevant times, what I observed, photographs, and of course I will be keeping that location a secret because he's just living his best life, his best platypus life. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that little adventure from this evening with you. One of the other more amazing things about living in Tasmania. And if you don't believe anything I've told you, please look it up. Search for platypus, and there's probably a dozen weird and wonderful facts I haven't told you about. They're crazy. They don't make sense, but wow, I'm glad they exist. Anyway, on to this evening's make. So this particular video is again inspired by Julie Cutts from Pouring Your Heart Out. She has used these moulds come in a set of 4, and she has used these moulds successfully to make the most beautiful bowls. So I did try this before. So if you would like to watch that, in video number 52, Trivet Tray Bowl Attempt, I had a go at this and it did not work out. So the reason that particular effort didn't succeed was because I had put some tiny little sort of gems, like little polished rocks, all around the edge. And I think when I tried to mould it, they just weren't flexible. So this time I am putting them in again, but they're going to go in that little circle in the middle, which won't be involved in any moulding. Oh, look, where are my gloves? Please don't be like me. Always wear full PPE when you're working with epoxy resin. I was so upset when I was looking at this video back. What was I thinking? It's very unlike me. I think I must have taken my gloves off so that I could actually work with these little chips, but that's no excuse. It just silly, makes me, just don't do it. So the inks that I'm using are a liquid pigment, and I wish I could tell you more, but I don't really know where you can buy them from or what brand they are. They were just they were a gift, and this is the first time I'm using them. They're not alcohol inks, so I was very keen to see if they could be used in a similar way to how alcohol inks have been used by Julie to colour these moulds before. So the resin that I'm using is a 2-part epoxy resin. It's a 2-to-1 ratio. It's River Arts Fast Cure Resin. And I've added into that a little bit of silver holographic glitter. It's a very fine glitter. And I'm just carefully going over all of the areas of the mould, and I was really pleased that the colours did move, so that was great. Now, after letting it cure for a few hours, the idea is not to let it cure fully. So we're looking for, I guess, a soft cure. And I'm taking it out of its mould very carefully, pressing my hand down on top of the piece as I'm removing the silicone mould, because I don't want any of the little pieces to lift up and get out of shape. And it's quite fragile at this stage. So, as you can see, the inks have stained my mould. I don't know what it is about some colours. The blue in this one, terrible. Other ones I've used, it's the pink or the yellow. So, I do have a little confession to make. I did try a couple of different bowl sizes before I settled on this one. This is just a mixing bowl from, I can't even think where I got them from. They're just very cheap plastic mixing bowls. And I put one over a bowl, and then I thought, what would happen if I sat another smaller bowl on the top to try and force it into that shape? And I think that actually worked quite well. I ended up putting one of my large decorated rocks on top of it. So I think I left it for about 5 or 6 hours, and so now I'm going to pull those bowls off and out from under and see what we are left with. I was just showing you there, that's right, that's a bowl that Tess, my little cream-coloured dog, got hold of one day and om-nom-nommed on it. So I'm really happy with this. It is quite a shallow bowl, but a bowl nonetheless. So mission accomplished. I was so happy to finally be able to achieve that moulding of a flat epoxy resin piece that I've never done before. So I'll go ahead in a moment and show you a little video of it. I've got some lovely fresh lemons from my garden in it. Although I don't necessarily think it is food that I'm going to be using it. I think it's way more decorative. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed that little bit of information about platypus, and oh yeah, it's just so exciting to see something so beautiful up close and in the wild, and I feel very, very lucky. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.